ready to go.
Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Today we're going to work on this little blower. Now, when I first got it, I thought to myself, oh, look, it's an easy, quick flip. I got it at a pretty good price, and I could see that there was something wrong with the carburetor. I wasn't getting any gas through it whatsoever, but the gas in the tank looked good. And I pulled on it and checked the cylinder, and the compression looked good. The cylinder looks nice and shiny, but I was getting zero gas through it. I hit it with a little bit of starter fluid, and she cranks right up. So we've got a new carburetor, and we're going to do something a little different with this one. So let's get started. So let's pull this apart real quick. Let's pull the carburetor off and have a look at her. See, not much to it. Remember, always loosen the gas cap before you take the gas lines off, or you'll wish you did. So this particular carburetor, almost impossible to get. This one, which is for practical purposes an identical carburetor, but with a float, or I'm sorry, with a primer bulb, easy to get. So we're going to put this carburetor on this motor and see if this primer is functional for this engine. If that works, we've got a super easy peasy little fix here. If it doesn't work, what we're going to do is take the old carburetor apart and try to use this top deck off of this one. I always tell people I on two strokes because I can get these carburetors for 10 or 15 bucks. Oh, 15 bucks, yeah. Anyway, I always replace the carburetors because the time it takes me to rebuild this one, I like to use gaskets too when I can. Just realized the gasket went with the carburetor. Anywho, I always replace the carburetors because I can replace the carburetor just this fast. It's just easy peasy. And the time it takes to rebuild one of these little carburetors, it just didn't worth the money. So now the trick with this is just a dry fit. Can I reach the primer bulb? And the answer is, yeah, I can, actually. I can reach it pretty easily. So we're going to go to step 2. See, we were just fitting it to see if it fit. And it does, it fits well. So now what we're going to do is remove the return line from the primer bulb. And we'll put a new one on if we have to. And run it straight to the carburetor. You can see in fooling around with the old carburetor, before I realized that it was missing pieces inside, it was in more than bad shape. Before I realized that, I tried to get her running with that one. And remember, these are steel screws going into plastic. So if you're using a screw gun, for God's sake, be gentle. Okay, and that's about it. Now what we'll do is we'll remove this little part that has a primer bulb on it. Not with this we won't, but with something. Because this blower came with and without this external primer bulb. And as you can see, she looks perfectly normal that way. There's our air cleaner. There she is. Now I'll pop that together real quick. See? Looks good. So let's put a little fuel in her and see what happens. Now, if this turns out to be more of a headache to use than I think it will be, then we'll go ahead and pull the top of the carburetor off and replace it on the other one. We do that with chainsaws all the time. You get the backing plate on a 2-barrel chainsaw, and the backing plate doesn't match from a new one to an old one, or from one to the next. It just makes you want to strangle the manufacturers. Okay, there we go. Now for the big question. Now let's make sure we're not blowing bubbles. And we're not. Let's give her a run, see if she'll start. That looks like she might need a little bit of a tune-up, but she almost wants to run. So let's take our little Pac-Man driver. There you go. Let's see where she's sitting now. The first thing you always do is to see where it's sitting right now to start. Oof, that's all the way in. Let's take a look at the low side. It's out one turn. Let's go right about here and try it here. See what we get. That was pretty close. Not bad. She sounds pretty good. A little bit of smoke, but that's not surprising. We don't know how long this thing's been sitting around. Let's see if she'll start again. Okay, now let's go over what we just did. I was sort of in the moment there and didn't really show you what I was doing. So what I did to start off was I turned them in to find out how far in they were and got a feel for it. And then I realized that the low screw, which is the one closest to the engine, the low screw affects the idle. And I turned it all the way in, found where it was, and then took it about a quarter turn farther than it was. And that kind of sort of idled, and that gave me a good start. Once you've got the low screw in the right place, then you can fool with the high screw to your heart's content because it'll idle. So don't bother with your high screw until you get your low screw right. The high screw, all I did was see where it was. You know, I tightened it all the way in loosely. Don't tighten it too tight. But I tightened it in and said, okay, that's where it's at. Put it back in its original position. Went to the low end, tightened it all the way in and saw where it was at, and then one quarter turn farther, and then started there. Now, if your low is all the way in too far, then it'll affect how your high works. But your low would have to be in way too far for that to happen. You would know. Even an amateur would know. Yep, I think we've got a winner here. Well, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next time.